So Steven's a data guy. He's a measurement guy. He looks at pattern recognition. He wants to break things down into small, achievable, measurable activities.
I brought my own cards.
All right. Lots and lots of small activities are commonly considered to be a demonstration of real impact. Look at all the people we have spending time, committing energy, taking certain actions. I call bullshit on that for two reasons. One, the actions that they're spending their time on are not necessarily productive or constructive, and so spinning your wheels and spending a lot of time, though self-reinforcing, is not contributing to something forward-moving. And two, because the management challenge, the logistical, practical management challenge of 1,000 flowers blooming, we haven't figured out how to do it as a society. No organization really does it well. So when you look at the patterns of lots and lots and lots of little activities, how do you actually pull out evidence that something is working or not so that we can direct some attention towards something that will move the needle?
Right. So while we're often in violent agreement, we say the same things with very different vocabularies, and then we realize that we're really not angry with one another. So the thing that's exciting about using data, and we heard it around here in different ways, but there's a lot of information out there, and there's a lot of brands out there that own a lot of data about you and your preferences and your behaviors, more so and as you get younger and younger, meaning as you look at people who are younger and younger but doing things, they're willing to share a lot more about themselves and where they are and checking in, et cetera. And then you have the old farts like me who won't do that. All right? But we need to understand what all that is. So when you look at all of that information, when you look at all that data, there are patterns that are emerging in that. And there are ways of looking at patterns, of recognizing patterns, and of clustering information about individuals, about causes, about brands, about how people respond to different kinds of things. So you can do a lot. As we were arguing last night, you can get $100 and I can give $1 to 100 organizations, or I can vet them, as was described here by another speaker and other people going around the room earlier today, and saying, all right, which ones make a difference? Which ones can I really impact? But if you do that without taking money off the table, although it's a concrete example of it, I think what you can really do is figure out how do you do things on a local level? How do you do things where you can make a difference and not just have feel-good activities about it? So if I give $100 or if I give $5 or if I do a walk, as you were arguing, what's changed? How does it make a difference? So I think what we have to do is re-engineer it, reverse engineer it. Start out, what's the goal? If the goal is to prevent world hunger, or let's rephrase, let's make it even more manageable, more achievable. I want to, in Newark, New Jersey, in the 4th Ward, prevent childhood hunger. I don't want any kid starting the day in the 4th Ward in Newark, New Jersey, not having breakfast before they go to school. How do I tackle that? What are the 12 or 15 or 100 things that have to take place on a critical path, and how do I measure progress in each of those phases?
So that is exactly the issue.
And the reason I want to phrase it that way is because, if you look at social networking media spends, all the things that the brands in this room or the agencies in this room are talking about, it's up, according to eMarketer, it's up almost 72% this year over last year. In 1 year they're spending. And the number is almost $6 billion. And that doesn't count any of the agency people or any of the brand people or creative people, marketing people that are staffed on that. That's just the ad spend. It's not the content creation. So
wait. What if I told you that
it's not changing
that to make sure that the kids in the 4th Ward of Newark woke up every day and had breakfast, that feeding those kids was not the answer, but in fact changing the school policy or the funding source from the government or whatever. If I told you that was the answer, if we had the answer, and I would argue that in a lot of the cases, particularly at local levels, we do have the answer. Why is it that everybody keeps saying, all you have to do is give a little more money or volunteer a little more time and do all these local actions?
Because those are easy.
Okay, so easy is...
those are easy,
but easy doesn't solve anything.
Good, right. And
so easy is bullshit.
Yeah.
So tell me how we look at the data and the pattern recognition to move past easy.
Right. I think we have to deal with the very tough questions. You have to call out organizations or leaders or firms, whoever. You have to call out individuals that this is working or this isn't working, and would you be willing to trial and test this?
So play this out.
I'm taking the experimental analog to it, right? I grew up as a bench scientist. But what you do is you start by saying, you keep doing your control, you have your baseline, all right? And then you test 2 or 3 or 4 different things, and you see if those are having a positive impact. Most experiments fail, all right? Most of us in research understand that we fail to disprove the null hypothesis. It's a joke for the scientists at MIT here, right? But most things you try don't work. They don't have the expected change, all right? But every once in a while, you find the one that does, and so you migrate over. But you have to call people out. And so my big stop is, people get involved with causes because they have personal agendas. I'm impacted by this disease, or my dad had cancer, or so-and-so, I saw a stray dog with an arrow through its head the other day. It was on the news. And how do you deal with that? So they get involved that way. But you have to call not-for-profit leaders out. You have to call marketing leaders out. You have to call brands out and say, what you're doing here isn't having an impact. Let's try something else.
So are we not
to put that agenda to the side?
Are we not running the experiments, or are we reading the data wrong?
We're not running the experiments.
Okay.
We're in our comfort zones.
Okay. So what makes for a good experiment? We know that the majority of experiments are going to fail. Presumably, we reverse engineer an experiment so that the failure we get is tied to a learning, meaning we don't know the answer 3 steps down the line, so we want to get to the first one and then run another set of experiments to get to the second, et cetera, et cetera. What do we have to do to run good experiments? Because let's say everyone was like, okay, I'll run experiments. I get it, okay? I don't have the answer. I'm going to try stuff. They're going to do the first one. They're going to fail. They're going to be like, this is bullshit. I ran an experiment. He said it was going to fail, but I didn't know it would hurt my feelings as much as it did. So how do we run an experiment where we can justifiably move the data forward in a way that gets you to the point of change?
Okay. It's how do you advocate? How do you as an individual, how do you as a board member, how do you as a marketer or somebody who's just a neighborhood activist, how do you get intelligent about a cause? How do you get intelligent about the impact that you're trying to have? And I think the way you do that, the way you formulate, the way you stimulate, the way you enhance cause intelligence is you have to be a listener. All right? Not a monitor, not somebody who reports on something, not somebody who has a dashboard, not somebody who reports on metrics, but somebody who listens and distills out, what does this mean? And to do that well, you have to be brave. You have to be willing to tell somebody, you know what, your baby, your project, is ugly. All right? I know a great plastic surgeon, but you have an ugly baby. Let's go make an appointment. All right? So how do you have to be brave and not be cautious in having those conversations. If you're well positioned in your team, in your organization, in your company, in your community, or even if you're not, are you willing to go over that comfort zone, over that hurdle, over that threshold, be discomforting to others, and say, let's try this, it's different, and listen to what's happening out there. So as you're suggesting, it's not just, serving, scrambled eggs and frozen waffles to the kids at school. It's not swapping out fruit for French fries at McDonald's. It's to combat obesity. What's really going to matter? And I think you have to just break it down locally and say, if I did this one thing or these 2 things, these outcomes are likely to change. These behaviors, these outcomes are likely to change. Let's trial that. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, let's try something else.
So then
very granular.
What should we not be measuring, right? We keep measuring reach. We keep measuring dollars raised. We keep measuring number of people touched. What is it that we need to not be measuring so that, because I don't think we know what to measure in all cases, but I know that what we're measuring is not the right stuff. So what should we not be measuring so that we can start to look at other potential metrics more closely tied?
Well, let's talk about the things you should measure, and if it's not on the list, then it's outside the box. That's the next question. All right. Well, I have my cards.
Well, that's great. Yeah. What do we need? I'll give you 3.
What you meant to ask.
I'll give you 3. We need to stop measuring reach, because one-to-one direct impact doesn't matter how many people are involved. If you can glean the lessons from a one-on-one impact, then we'll figure out what to do with it after that. 2, size, which is different than reach, meaning girth or breadth of focus and the number of different things. We shouldn't count up, we should count down, as I would like to say. And the third are everything that falls under the general category of awareness and impressions. Because I don't give a shit if you know all about my success or my failure. I care about whether or not you figured something out. So those are three that I would take off the table. Anything else that you would take off the table that everybody measures and every dashboard offers and every company that sells a tool says this is what you need to know to determine whether you're successful.
The Radiant Sixes of the world and the other companies that you're measuring, anybody, if you're selling ads, all right, if you're selling space that advertisers are going to take on a web page or for a cause or whatever, then you have to measure those things because that's what they want to see, right? But what you're really talking about in the world of sales is conversions. It's more than click-throughs. It's more than conversions. It's who. Let's put it in a cause framework. How many people did I serve? Right. So if I'm in a cancer support community, or if I'm in a childhood diabetes foundation, how many? It's more than the people that touch me. It's more than my likes. It's more than my visitors. It's how many people that need to be treated, or how many people that need to be served are in fact served at Tuesday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Get that granular. Show it during the course of a day, through the course of a week, through the course of a month, through the course of a campaign, if that's what you have to look at. But measure, like if GM is selling brakes, batteries, and blades at the dealer through Mr. Goodwrench, well, he doesn't exist anymore, right? But for the GM service program, they measure. I sent out a bunch of emails, I sent out a bunch of direct mails, and I got to see how many people came into the store, came into the auto dealer, and bought blades, So you need to look at that as a cause. How many people did I serve? How many people did I educate? How many people came in the door of my community center, got enrolled for the first time, and are now in some kind of a learning or educational program? Those are the things that have to be measured. All the other stuff is table stakes. It's what the advertisers or the brands that advertise want to see. That's good. But also tell them the real ROI, the real social ROI, the real return on social intelligence, on the listening, is how many did you serve?
All right, you're done.
That's it.
We'll continue
You're kinder than I thought.
Well, I got my aggression out.
All right. You're a good man. Thank you.
Thank you.